Hey, I will be speaking about three different angles or views about investing in monopolies or about assessing the moats of businesses. It's a very interesting topic that I've dig deeper into in the past few months or so. So the first of the three thinkers or people I will be presenting is Peter Thiel. Peter was a co-founder of PayPal. Actually, one of the two companies that merged and became PayPal. One was Confinity. The second one was X.com by Elon Musk. Both were merged and became PayPal. Later, he started a global macro hedge fund and some other funds. The main thesis of that fund was that we are at peak oil, or we will reach peak oil production soon. It was maybe 15 years ago. And after that stage, the price of oil will skyrocket. So he had that hedge fund. Later, he co-founded Palantir. Palantir is a data gathering and intelligence provider, providing services to the CIA, FBI, etc. He also made a 10% angel investment in Facebook for very cheap evaluation. He was the first outside money into Facebook. In addition, he joined YC, Y Combinator. We spoke about it. It's the best startup school or accelerator. He later left them, but he advised startups there and worked with them for a very long time. And his net worth is about, actually it's $9 billion. So the guy knows what he's talking about. He has a very good YouTube presentation with the title, competition is for losers. Basically, it says that over a very long time frame, companies that are competing with other companies tend to have their margin competed away. So if you have two supermarkets, two airlines, two whatever, usually over a very long time frame, there will be a price war, or every one of these companies will lower their prices until one of them will not make any profit. The less profitable one will make no profit. The others might make profit. If you look at airlines, for example, it's almost a joke. The fact that no airline is making any money. If you look at technology companies, where usually every company is doing one thing and is kind of a monopoly in a certain field, these tend to be much more profitable. If or when you start a business, you should aim to become a monopoly at something. What does that mean? It means you should start with a very small market. So Facebook started with one certain campus, and then added some more campuses later and expanded their potential market only later, but it started very, very focused on a very, very small market to make sure that they are a monopoly in that certain market. He also says that there are only two kinds of business. Either you are competing in a perfect competition. So imagine supermarket, imagine airline, imagine travel agency, like either perfect competition or a monopoly. Like almost no companies are in partial competition. If you look at Airbnb, there is only one Airbnb. Like almost never the situation where two companies are kind of competing with each other exists. Usually monopolies lie that they are not monopolies and the other way around. So I think it's kind of like the out of war concept, appear weak when you are strong and strong when you are weak. Usually monopolies will tend to say, at least to the regulators, we are a very small part of a much larger market. So Google can claim to be a monopoly in online advertising business, or it can say, I'm a very small player in global advertising because I don't own any newspaper, I don't own any billboards, I don't own this and this and that. Or they can even say, I'm very, very small player in the entire technology market. Here, I have 100 different products that are in the technology sector, and I'm not a monopoly in them, or I'm not making any profits in them. And the companies that are in fierce competition usually tend to tell the other lie, that yes, we are a monopoly, we are the only Indian restaurant in this area of town, in this street, in this whatever, even though when you go out and eat, you don't necessarily want Indian food or pizza or whatever. So this is an interesting fact, and usually Silicon Valley overvalues growth and undervalues durability. By investing in monopolies, and in this talk we will see what do I mean by that. We invest in durability and longevity of the companies. The second thinker is a hedge fund manager called Liow. He's managing about $300 million in a fund, and he's relatively unknown, but I think he's very smart. He's some kind of brainchild of Tim Ferriss and Peter Lynch, because he speaks a lot about self-improvement and learning from errors and learning from stuff. And he's also a growth investor. And Peter Lynch is the best known growth investor in my view, at least. He has some great content on YouTube, and he pushes for deliberate practice, like looking at all companies that made 10x, 50x on investing in them, trying to find similarities between them, trying to find what was different between them, trying to dissect the biggest winners and biggest losers of the market. And much less like Genghis Khan, he says that you should only fight unfair fights. So you should look for unfair fights and only fight them. And this is exactly why he said you should only invest in monopolies, okay? The investment philosophy is you only invest in monopolies and oligopolies. Oligopoly is a situation where a few companies, let's say two or three of them, are controlling the market. And he says he will not invest in companies with competition or with real competition. In addition, you should only buy the stock when the company is in the early growth stage. So after the monopoly has been established, after it's certain that the value proposition is the best, but before the company is growing, or before the company has grown a lot, and only if you see that they are a monopoly, and you sell as soon as the moat. And now when I say a company is a monopoly, it's the same as saying that the moat is crazy strong and nobody can conquer it or defeat the company or do some price war with you. In regular market or in non-monopoly market, no matter how much you study the company, what you know about it, how good the company is, one day after you finished your research, a competitor can join the market, start a new supermarket, start price war with you, and then you're forced to lower your prices and you are fucked. So he's basically saying that there is no knowledge or there is no market research or company research when the company is not a monopoly, because your knowledge will disappear as soon as some competitor will join the market. And he is also doing a long-short strategy. He is also learning about the worst companies in the market, not only the best of them, but the worst, and he's doing the same thing with shorting them. I think that the reason that this guy is using a long short is because most of these monopolies are being traded with very high multiples, so PE of, let's say, 40, 50, 80. And if you are not doing long-short strategy in that kind of an environment, if the entire market will go down, this kind of companies is the kind that goes down the most. And you almost must have a long-short strategy in order to be protected against entire market movements. So the fact that, let's say, Buffett is not known for a long-short strategy, but Buffett was not buying companies with this high of a valuation. So it's just something to think about. A few examples of his monopolies. TransGM is a maker of parts for aerospace industry. 80% of their revenue comes from parts, which they are the sole provider. So once you finish the design of Boeing 787 or something, you need parts for maintenance. Let's say oil pump, certain kinds of screws, all kinds of parts for that airplane. Now, this company is the only provider for some of these parts. Once you have, let's say, 1,000, 10,000, 50,000 airplanes in the market that needs this maintenance, they must buy from them. Like nobody can cut them, nobody can make this kind of screw without going through all of the tests, the regulations, the crash test, the whatever. So in a certain sense, the income of this company is almost guaranteed. As long as airplanes are flying, they will be maintained, and this company will be the only one to sell some of the parts, which is crazy good. Another one is Evolution Gaming. It's a company that provides services to offline and online gambling companies. It grows like crazy. I read the reports from them a few months ago, and they were providing services to maybe 7 of, I don't know how many large casinos in Las Vegas, like MGM and Wayne Group and others, like the big names that I saw in Vegas. They are providing services like renting out the machines and stuff like that. In addition, they provide services to DraftKings and a few other online gambling companies. The situation here is that they are not the sole provider, but they are outsource provider for lots of different companies. So if you have money to gamble, it doesn't matter if you gamble in this casino or in that one. At the end, this company will provide services to your provider of gambling entertainment. Another one is Google. You all know Google. I don't need to tell you why it's a monopoly. I love this company, of course. Another one is Microsoft. It grows like crazy in the past few years. It didn't grow as much 5 years ago, but in the past few years it grows like crazy. And it's a monopoly in a few of their business lines. We'll speak about them later. ASML is the only company that makes the machine that is able to make chips for whatever, for everything, like the processors in everything. This is the only company that makes the newest technology of chips. I don't want to speak about the technicals too much, but a long time ago there was a competition in that field, but right now it's the only company that provides to all maker of chips the machine that is able to make the chip, the CPU, the GPU. What is cool about it is that they are able to make connectors that are much smaller than a ray of light. Like the actual size of the ray of light that they are using to create the conductor is, if I remember, it's maybe 17 or 19 nanometer length. And using that, they are able to create a conductor that is 5 nanometer like width. So it's crazy. If you will remind me, I will send a YouTube video of explanation of how this technology works. It's crazy physics. I don't believe that anybody will be able to overcome them or develop the same kind of machine. Like every one of these machines costs 50 or 70 million euros or something crazy like this. Every one of these machines is in a size of a small house. Like it's crazy huge. It's not it's very complex technology. Let's speak about a few negative examples. So these companies look like monopolies that are growing in first glance, but they do not comply with his rules. So Coke, Colgate, and Unilever are all three of them are huge companies that are making that are monopolies in their fields. Coke, you all know, Colgate makes more than 50% of toothpaste around the world, and they also own Gillette, which makes most of the razors around the world, and Unilever makes lots of cereals and dry food stuff. All three of them are monopolies in the sense that they own markets, but they do not grow. So in my mind, all three of them make sense as it's called bond replacement. Like you buy the stock, you wait, you get 3 or 5% dividend, and that's it. Like it's instead of investing in bonds with 0% interest, you buy a company that is a monopoly, or that the income from it is very certain, and you will get the money. The negative side is that they are all not growing. Disney is also amazing monopoly that is not growing. Maybe now with the content streaming wars against Netflix, it's growing, but in my mind, it's not growing enough, and I don't see it as a growing business, but I don't know really. Lemonade, if you know it, it's an insurance tech company from Israel that was growing like crazy. I lost some money on it, by the way. This time it's growing, or it was growing, but it's not a monopoly in the sense that they have competitors now, and all of the large insurance companies are using tech and are using AI to grow their business. So the first 4 companies were not growing. The last one is not a monopoly. Okay, so everything we said so far is a motivation for this part. This part is how do we spot and analyze these monopolies, or how do we know that the moat is good and we should consider the company? So I really like a book called 7 Powers by this guy. Basically, it's 7 kinds of moats that companies has, and it's a framework that you can use to learn about moats and to analyze them and to build them in your own business. The guy is a consultant and investor. At the end of the book, he's saying that he made 40% annual returns for almost 20 years. That sounds not reasonable at all. I'm not sure if he was able to invest in private companies as well, because it's not clear from the way he's saying that. But it's fucking crazy, amazing return. If this is true, it should be much more known. Like it's it's crazy returns on his money. Yes, he defines a competitive power as anything that lets you charge more for your service, leading to margins. Okay, yes, we said it earlier, yes. Okay, so now we'll start with the 7 types of powers, okay? And if you have questions, you can ask. Okay, so the first one is scale economies. Essentially, you build once, you build something once, you buy it once, you get it once, and you use it multiple times. This is why all of the tech companies are worth so much. After you develop the iPhone once, the cost of producing more iPhones is very cheap relative to the cost of producing the first iPhone, okay? The engineering, the man hours that went into building the first one were very high, but now the production costs are so low that essentially every iPhone that they sell is pure profit. If I want to start a new smartphone company today, I will need to develop my own operating system, my own device, my own everything, and just creating that first sample, that first working device will cost me so much, it doesn't make any sense, okay? The same thing here goes with Netflix, where they buy content. So some of the content that they are buying, they are paying per stream or per view, but some of them, the originals, they are paying once, and they may use the streaming rights all over the world whenever they want. So in that case, every original show that they buy, they pay for it once and they replicate it forever. Same with Microsoft, development costs, and yes, and Apple and Android. Network economies. Network economies is where users bring value to other users. In this kind of environment, we will see winner takes it all. Examples of this are Microsoft Office. So if I use Office and I want to collaborate with Sebastian, he must have Microsoft Office as well, or otherwise we will not be able to collaborate. Because of that, Microsoft Office is controlling that market. We see similar thing in Uber, where more riders bring value to more drivers, which bring value to more riders. The same thing we see with WhatsApp, Facebook, Zoom. This meeting is held over Zoom, and we all must use Zoom for it. LinkedIn. Uber is an interesting case because in that situation, it doesn't cost anything for a driver to be part of the Uber network, and Lyft and whatever, and Bolt and whatever other companies or clones are there outside. The same goes for riders. And in that specific case, it will not be winner takes it all, because both drivers and riders will use both Uber, Lyft, Bolt, whatever, which means that nobody is getting that network economies thing. And by the way, all of these ride-sharing services are heavily subsidizing the rides to buy the market share, because they believe the winner takes it all, and they believe that their competitors will bleed out money until they will get discouraged and stop this war, this price war. The next one is counter positioning. It's a very cool power. Basically, it's where a newcomer uses a new business model that is better than the business model in that market. And the large, it's better for the customers, but okay, it's where, sorry, the new business model is better for the customers, but it will not be, it will kill the large companies in that market. For example, Netflix with the block, when it just started, it was competing on rental by mail of DVDs, and Blockbuster was the largest competitor. Blockbuster was making most of its money from late fees. Now, when Netflix started, they said, okay, we are not having any late fees, and we are competing in DVDs by mail. In that situation, Blockbuster could say, okay, we are canceling the late fees, but then they would lose more than 50% of their revenue. So Netflix essentially let Blockbuster have two bad options. Either they will lose 50% of their revenue, which is bad for them, or they will have, or Netflix will slowly bite in their market share. Okay? In that situation, usually the largest companies have no good options. They are basically fucked, and they must, and this is pretty much the only way, or a very good way, for a small company to capture a market share. The same thing, the same story was with Robinhood when they started no commission trading. Like up to this point, the larger stock market brokers did not offer no commission trading. Once Robinhood started, like E-Trade and the rest of them had to provide the same thing or lose business. Okay. The next one is switching costs. So once your data is at a certain provider, let's say you do all of your email is at Gmail. If I would offer you a different mail provider, the switching cost is so high, like you cannot move your entire phone book, your entire life from Gmail to whatever. So you are basically fucked. In this situation, most companies offer a porting tool that lets you like take your data from the competition and put it in their environment. Other examples are Salesforce and SAP. Branding, you know what branding is, you don't need me to explain it. Cornered resource. Cornered resource is where a company control some kind of resource that nobody else has. It could be the world supply of something. It could be some kind of patent. It could be better or cheaper labor. So if I'm a professor in the best department for AI around the world, and I work for a certain company, then this company has an advantage over everybody else, essentially. patent is just the same thing, like it's a monopoly over some kind of process or some kind of knowledge for a certain period of time. And the last power, which is very rare and you almost never see it, is process power. Process power is operational excellence plus the situation where the state depends on history. So Toyota for a very long time had the best manufacturing process versus every other car company, and it took them a lot of time. It took the competitors a lot of time to learn it and to be able to clone that process power. Basically, it means that it was a situation where the entire assembly floor, it's very rare. You will not see it. You see it at TSMC, which is a company that makes most of the chips in the world. Like they are fabricating most of the chips in the iPhones and in lots of other processors, GPUs, whatever. They are a client of ASML that we spoke about earlier. So these are the 7 powers. I have a few other closing thoughts on that subject. So everything I said up to that point. I didn't say about price. I didn't say anything about price so far. So most of these companies are very expensive. Like people are seeing that they are very good, that they are growing, and in my mind at least, like none of these people said it, but the price matters as well. Like the fact that we found a company that is growing doesn't mean that it will grow enough to justify the current price. So I just think we should be attentive to price as well. The next thing about price is the long short. So what Liow is doing, like shorting companies. I don't have any shorts right now, but if I will do this kind of strategy for most of my money. I will need some kind of protection, and the long short sounds like the right strategy. The next thing is that there are a lot of ways to make money. So this path or this way or this method is not what I was doing up to this point. This is not the Warren Buffett way. This is not the Charlie Munger way. This is not the Ben Graham way. Like all of these people have been speaking about moats, but this is an extreme view that almost looks only at moats. I believe that in different market conditions, different strategies work. In some market conditions, this could be very good, not in all market conditions and not all the time. That's my point here. If the interest rate will go up, it will decrease the price, or it should decrease the price of high PE companies. This strategy is exactly the opposite thing as what we need in a raising interest rate environment. And I'm not going all in on that. I'm just buying a few of these companies in very small portions of my portfolio. A few resources that could be good for you. I will send a presentation. Competition is for losers is the first talk on YouTube. Liow has lots of content on YouTube, and it's great. 7 Powers is a book, and Acquired is a podcast that speaks about tech companies, and they usually give the 7 powers framework for every one of the companies that they are talking about. I like that podcast a lot. And I'm done.